I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I wanted to take a second before I head out of the country. I'm going to Costa Rica tomorrow, but I wanted to take a second to talk about something that I just saw, which was a really disturbing clip from the TV show Shark Tank. Shark Tank is a show on CNBC where you've got a group of fat cats who basically sit there, and I like that term, fat cats. That's how they used to describe the group in the article I read. Basically a group of wealthy investors who sit there and they evaluate different investment options that are presented to them. And so they sit there and the person does a presentation. And during the presentation, after it's over, they pretty much tell them, I will invest in your company for this percent ownership. I won't invest or whatever. And in order to make the show interesting and fun, they throw in, all this colorful commentary where they'll go off on each other. They'll go off on the person that's doing the presentation. Little things for entertainment effect. Now, one of the things that I saw that was really disturbing was a clip from a guy named Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary is one of the hosts on the show. He's a 60-year-old guy who they call him a shark investor, and I don't know if they call them all sharks, but that's what the description I saw of him says. And there were two black women, very 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 beautiful young ladies who were presenting an idea for a company. I think it had to do with makeup, and there was this whole conversation about the color and whether or not the color was going to sell and whether or not they could actually get the distribution they needed. And I think they needed investors for the distribution. And one of the things that I saw was when O'Leary goes in. O'Leary basically tells them your idea is pretty much horrible. It's not going to work. If anyone, if it were easy to sell this color of lipstick, then other people would have done it. And then he says something to the effect of, then and all these big companies will come along and crush you like the cockroaches you are, or like the colorful cockroaches you are. Excuse me. So, you know, here's the thing. Obviously, the remark when you first hear it, it definitely shocks your system because I see the imagery. Right, I'm seeing colorful. It can mean color in terms of race, but there's a good chance it means colorful in terms of the color of the lipstick or whatever that they were wearing. Cockroaches, I think for him, perhaps, possibly, I don't know. Maybe he's referring to the fact that they're small and these companies are big and they're going to crush them like roaches. And from what I understand, he may have even called other investors cockroaches on the show, or not investors, entrepreneurs cockroaches on the show. So perhaps for him, it's not a racial thing. I don't know. But here's a perspective to look at on this. And this is why I think that CNBC needs to apologize and O'Leary needs to apologize, is because it's not so much because an insult is really in the eye of the beholder. And we're all beholding this. He's beholding it from his perspective. I'm beholding it from mine. These ladies are beholding it from their perspective. And I can imagine that they probably didn't feel good when he called them cockroaches. And they probably felt that there was some sort of racial injustice going on here, and they may not have been able to even put their finger on it. But let me help in terms of pinpointing a way to kind of break this down a little bit. Okay, if you assume that O'Leary meant nothing racial by what he said, and then he was basically just, using the term that he's used toward other entrepreneurs, and the race had nothing to do with it. Even if you make that assumption, one of the things that's interesting is that this comment comes against the backdrop of very consistent international global disrespect for the black woman all over the world. Most of these publications that will tell you who the most beautiful women in the world are, who the most beautiful models are going to be, what is attractive and what is not, they always tend to coincidentally put most black women at the bottom of the barrel. Now, of course, you might have a couple who might spring up to the top, but those tend to be black women with Eurocentric features, light skin, maybe long hair, etc. But there are a couple of exceptions, of course. But for the most part, that's kind of what happens. Black women tend to get pushed to the side, other than a couple of celebrities who get celebrated perhaps for a short period of time, and then they move on to the status quo. So black women, to make it short and sweet, basically black women have been told that they're ugly by almost everyone, including many black men. I know a lot of brothers who, not a lot, but I know a few who, and I'll just look at them and say, why don't you date black women? And they'll say all these horrible, ugly things about black women that they won't say about anybody else. And it's not to say that the women that they've met don't have flaws, but all women have flaws, and that's the part I don't necessarily understand. And some of it can be easily attributed to a brainwashing where we see black women as less attractive than other groups of people. So when you put that against the imagery of a cockroach, you're a colorful cockroach. You're calling a black woman a colorful cockroach, and she's been told that she's ugly by everybody in the world. That's not cool. That's not cool. That's very, very hurtful. I mean, it hurt my feelings as a father of daughters, as a black man. And I can't imagine black women seeing this kind of remark being made about a black woman and walking away and saying, "Oh, it had nothing to do with her race. Who cares? It's he's just being who he is." Even if that is the case, even if that's what he thought he was doing, that's not what came out. That's not what they felt. That's not what a lot of people are feeling, which is why CNBC and O'Leary need to apologize for this. The second thing that comes to mind here is the nasty, nasty stench of systematic racism that steps into these situations, these discussions. Now here you have these two young sisters who are African American, which means by virtue of statistical artifact, they are likely to have come again on average. I don't know their background specifically, but the black community on average, we come from families that have almost no inheritance whatsoever. The reason we have almost no inheritance on average is because for hundreds of years, white people have stolen our stuff. I was going to say they've stolen our shit, but I've tried not to cuss, so I won't say the word shit. But they've stolen our stuff for hundreds of years, passed it down to their children. Their children now hold this stuff. When you go down a street in New York City, in Manhattan, you look at these big buildings that are worth 100 million, 200 million, 400 million dollars. Almost none of those buildings are owned by black people. And it's not because black people didn't help build all of this. It's not because black people didn't help build this country. It's because that for hundreds of years, African Americans were forced to work for free. And during Jim Crow, they had their wealth either extracted from them or they were denied access to that wealth in the first place. So if you snuck through the system and found a way to build some wealth, there's a very good chance that the whites, with the power of the law on their side, were then able to come into your community like they did in Black Wall Street and murder who they need to kill in order to get access to your money. Or they could find trumped up charges to incarcerate you, which then gave them the opportunity to come in and take your land, take your money, take all your wealth. And these stories are never told because in our school system they don't educate us about this, and it's for good reason from their perspective. Because if you find out about how many trillions of dollars were stolen from your people, how many trillions of dollars would be in the hands of our community had it not been stolen, if you were to find that out in detail, if your ancestors were able to come up from the grave to resurrect themselves and tell you these stories, you would be so angry that it would be hard for you to go to work the next day. You would be pissed. So basically, due to systematic racism, many of us are caught in situations, especially when we decide we want to build businesses, where we have such a lack of access to capital and opportunity that we end up having to beg and borrow and plead and listen to racist guys like this. I don't say racist guys. I'm not going to call him a racist, but I'm going to say his comment certainly was a problem. Let's say this. Let's call him a jerk. Let's not call him a racist right away because we don't need to do that. You have to listen to jerks like him, insensitive jerks, just say the most ridiculous, hurtful stuff so that you can get on your knees and beg and say, "Master, can you please give me money to start my business?" That's what systematic racism has done to so many African Americans, robbed us of our dignity, where you can't go to him and just say, "You know what, I'm not going to let you disrespect me. You don't call me a cockroach. I'm a beautiful black woman. That's it. You're not going to say things like that to me because it's hurtful to me, and I'm not going to tolerate that kind of disrespect." That's what I would teach my girls to say in the face of that situation. Now, the reason my girls could probably say that and be okay is because we've been stacking up what I call your FU money. FU money is the money that you put aside, the wealth and the investments and the opportunities you have put to the side, so that if somebody disrespects you in a way that you don't want to tolerate, you can go in, you can say F you, and be out. You don't have to worry about kowtowing to ignorance, to racism, or other forms of abuse in order to get access to the things you need. That's the biggest problem in the black community right now. That's been the thing that's created the most racism for us in terms of things that we have to overcome in order to make it through the 21st century. It's the fact that we are entirely dependent upon the descendants of our historical oppressors to get the things that we need. So that requires two things. One, awareness. You have to understand history. We have to look to the past to understand the present and the future. Number two, it's going to require building within our community in order for us to build these institutions so that we can sustain ourselves. Don't believe the lie. Integration was not good for you. It did not build your community. Integration, as Pastor Kevin Cosby in Louisville, Kentucky, the president of Simmons College, said, integration led to disintegration of black institutions. So what happened is that when we integrated into white institutions, they had a small percentage of us that did better. Because remember, there's a wall. There's about a 5, 6, 7% wall where most white institutions won't bring in more than 5, 5, 6, 7% blacks. So there are a few black people who do well, but the masses of black people get left behind because when we integrate it, we shut down everything in our community so we can go join up and beg white folks to be a part of what they had. But the problem is white folks don't have enough room for everybody, or they won't make enough room for everybody. So the masses of us get left out in the cold. That's why you have the situation in Baltimore where you've got these wealthy elite black people in powerful positions, but where people don't understand, if you got these wealthy elite black people who are doing so well, why would the black people in the poor communities be rioting? It's because one group represents the elite, the other group represents the masses. Those are the two sides of integration, and that's kind of what led to that split. So, with that being said, I'm looking at the show Shark Tank, and all those thoughts are coming into my mind when I see these individuals. Most of the people on the show are not black, so this was a special kind of episode, but I'm seeing these two young ladies have to beg these people for money when really, I believe if they were white, they would have at least had a relative who could have loaned them, say, $20,000 to get their business started. That's not a lot of money, actually. I know white families where they've had grandparents give them a house in New York that's worth $500,000 or something like that. I mean, imagine if you had $500,000 extra to start your business, how much easier your life would be. You would be able to start your business, have the capital that you needed, and you wouldn't have to worry about being homeless. A lot of black people I know don't have any of that. They have debt. And it's not always their fault. It's because of what happened historically in this country. So when I'm looking at this Shark Tank thing, I'm seeing this dynamic where systematic racism is coming into play, where this white man can look at these beautiful black women, these intelligent, sharp, hardworking, focused, energetic black women, and call them colorful cockroaches, and have them have to sit there and smile and pretend like they didn't just hear what he said, against the backdrop of the whole world calling black women ugly. And black women, in case you don't know, are the most beautiful creatures on the planet. And I'm not just saying that to kiss up to my mama. I'm saying it because I believe it to be true with 100% of my heart. So, so what I saw here was unacceptable. I know personally I'm not going to watch the show anymore until he apologizes and/or the show apologizes and just lets the world know, like, look, we understand that it's not acceptable. It's cool to be entertaining, but it's not acceptable to be abusive in that regard, because I personally see this as having huge racial implications, especially when you toss in systematic racism and seeing them have to endure all this abuse from this ignorant guy just to get a little bit of money. I think it should be better than that. And in fact, I'm actually going to look around and try to find out the names of these sisters and the name of their company, and I'm going to encourage you to support their company because I want them to get support from their community so they don't have to deal with this kind of abuse in order to get the things that they need. So once I find out, I'll hit you back. Well, anyway, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. If you want it, you can go check out our site, financialjuneteenth.com. Also, please support our film. We have a new film out called Resurrecting Black Wall Street, where we tell the story of the Black Wall Street atrocities in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We also talk about how to resurrect those ideas and build Black Wall Streets all over the country so that we don't have to beg, borrow, and plead in order to get the things that we need. So you can check out the trailer of the film at resurrectingblackwallstreet.com. That's resurrectingblackwallstreet.com. So please pre-order the film, and I promise you that money is going toward hiring black people. So it's not going to be wasted on Beamers and Bentleys and like Floyd Mayweather. I ain't taking it and running to the club and throwing it in the air. We're actually using this to help people feed their families. So I hope you will support. The site is resurrectingblackwallstreet.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I am gone. Peace.